Hey, sorry nyanda barasan data putih sampai di dada ngana kira tak.
This time, let's watch Channel 15.
Good morning, world. Good morning to all the viewers who are currently watching us right now. We're here today live at Channel 15 TVM TV, together with my partner.
I'm Crisel Eleno.
And I'm Archel, Amahit, and we are here today to give you a broad explanation and widen your understanding about
Talking global justice.
yes, and the importance of critical social theory in African business paradigm. But before that, we have 4 headlines that we have to tackle in this topic. Partner, what are the 4 headlines in this topic?
First, business versus ethics. Second, Millennium Development Goals. Third, human rights covenants. And lastly, the invisibility of indigenous African norms.
Right.
We are talking about global justice. What do you mean global justice?
Global justice, partner, politically derived philosophy which is formed in the world that is so generally unjust and unfair when it comes to matters justice, distribution of power, and economic resources and opportunities. So it affects the issue on the African business paradigm. So let's recall about the business paradigm. What is paradigm, partner?
Partner paradigm, an example of serving as a model pattern.
Yes, also additionally, it is also beliefs that are held by the group of people. So not just only by one person, held by one person, and these beliefs are shared, passed on, and believed by generations.
In this chapter, it provides evidence of the importance of sustaining critical discourse from African perspectives about non-African attitudes towards human nature and social responsibility of governments. Business versus ethics. Let's be honest, even the most honest, truthful, and ethical person will find him or herself in the midst of a full-blown ethical crisis at some time in his/her career. Although you can't hide from ethical dilemmas, the first step is to become aware, equip yourself with knowledge and skills. So let's start with the question, what is ethics? Well, ethics are the basic moral ground rules by which we live our lives. It all has to do with our conscience. Our conscience, that moral self-awareness of our behavior that tell us when is something right or wrong. What do we do with it, especially in the workplace? Well, you come to work and your employer has certain specific expectation of you, such as playing by the rules, obeying the law, being honest in your behavior and speech, to look out for the company's best interests, and to show respect for property and people. These are the basic ethical expectations of your employer. Where do workplace ethical dilemmas come from? Understand that ethical dilemmas are everywhere. The workplace tests your ethical decision-making skills. Rely on the way you deliver service or respond to crisis. How you react to the policies and practices of your company. Be aware and careful of how others perceive your actions. This is of corporate social responsibility, requiring a kind of honest brokering, talking on board the views of relevant stakeholders and business operators with their culturally specific styles of body language, handshaking, voice modulation, gesture of reference, as well as their potentially conflicting responses to moral puzzles without fearing or favoring in any alternative. That's why in business, ethics are very essential. Having an ethical and a moral value offer companies a competitive advantage. Their customers tend to trust and support ethical brands of their choice even during different times. In business, there is always a financial risk that if things do not go well to the person, might face some substantial financial losses. Having no guaranteed income, in fact, there might be times when the business is not generating enough for having a living too. Second, headlines. Millennium Development Goals, or the MDGs. Partner, enlighten me what is MDGs, please?
MDGs are Millennium Development Goals, comments world leaders to combat poverty, hunger, disease, illiteracy, environmental degradation, and discrimination against women.
Partner, you're right. The world suffered the global inequality, financial crisis, HIV/AIDS epidemic. How did the world get here? And did the United Nations have the solutions? Large organizations did not embrace sustainable development, and many developing countries thought they were predominantly drafted and presented by policymakers from rich developed countries. Adding on to this, global problems were starting to pile up: inequality, financial, overconsumption, crisis, disease, and hunger. All of this leads to mistrust towards the United Nations because how they handle an economic situations in the 80s and 90s. 191 United Nations member states and 22 international organizations came together on the 8th of September 2000 in New York, pledging to achieve the 8 Millennium Development Goals by 2015. The Millennium Development Goals become the central reference point for development cooperation in package of global critical issues on poverty, hunger, disease, inequality, and environmental degradation. Headlines: Human Rights Covenants. 1976, the United Nations adopted two covenants: the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Together with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, these three documents form the International Bill of Human Rights. These covenants detail the basic economic, social, cultural, civil, and political rights of individuals and nations. Government and individuals must work together to make the human rights a reality to all people. The rights of the covenant apply to all individuals, regardless of race, color, sex, language, religion, political opinion, social status, nationality, property, birth, or other status. Every individual has the right to life. Everyone has the right of freedom of thought. All of people have the right to freely determine political status and to pursue their economic, social, and cultural goals. Nothing in the covenant may be interpreted to destroy any existing rights or freedoms. These covenants are part of the United Nations International Bill of Human Rights. Governments are responsible for reporting progress to the United Nations Human Rights Committee to ensure that these covenants are properly observed and implemented. Fourth headlines: the invisibility of indigenous African norms. A fully detailed information, let's hear from a partner. Yes, Crisel?
The invisibility of indigenous African norms. Contemporary development issues are not new. All groups of people, based on their worldviews and context, found ways of addressing their societal problems. By their nature, solutions were relevant, legitimate, and sustainable in their context. An effective development practice is to understand and respect the roots of African culture. This needs to be a rootedness to change and development.
Yes, partner. So let's avoid those racism, sexism, and by stereotyping the other culture. So let's respect the root of the African norms also. Also, partner, this cultural diversity is best regarded as a vehicle for discovering those fundamental convictions about the possibilities for a transnational meaning of economic justice rather than the main obstacle to its realization. Alright, that's the end of our explanation in this chapter 15, the talking of global justice, the importance of critical social theory in African business paradigm. So I'm going to recall the four topics. These are business versus ethics. Number 2, Millennium Development Goals. Number 3, Human Rights Covenants. And the last, the invisibility of indigenous African norms.
Thank you for being with us.
This is Crisel, Eleno.
And this is Archel, Amahit. Of course, hope to see you guys right back here in the same channel, Channel 15 TV in TV. Have a good day!
Thank you for watching.